Hello, and welcome to the Wondermongers,
where we talk about the strange and freakish things in our slice of the world. I'm Christina.
And I'm Quincy. Let's wondermonger. Hi, Christina.
Hello.
Not the day we're recording, but the day this comes out. Happy Leap Day.
Happy Leap Day, indeed, I guess.
And I need you to know that Leap Day comes once every 4 years. And it is a dream for us Quantum Leap fans. Because it is a ritualistic thing that us fans do. Where on Leap Day, we indulge in all of our favorite Quantum Leap activities, watching the show, reading the books, comic books, all that good stuff.
That's indulgement?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And we just have a whole day filled with Quantum Leap. And so, on this episode of The Watering Hole, we will be talking about Quantum Leap!
Okay, cool.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited for you.
Getting to talk about one of my special interests is the best, and now I get to do it on a podcast, and you get to ask questions about it, and it's going to be so good.
Great.
But before we do that, we should probably talk about the question we had last episode.
Oh, no. What did I say again? I forgot. Oh, God.
Hold on. Everything is buffering, but I'm pulling up the script. I am pulling up the script.
Are we sure about that? Oh, this is... There we go. We didn't write it down.
We didn't write it. Oh, who would you kill?
Oh, right.
In order to assume their life.
Right.
And you told me, like, it had to be somebody who, like, I could reasonably assume their life.
Right.
Like, so I couldn't pick Jack Black, which hurt my soul, because that's who I wanted to pick to begin with.
Sorry.
That's okay. Not that I want to kill Jack Black, but I just think living his life would be so much fun.
That's fair.
So my gut is Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
But I'm not old enough.
Fair.
And 2, I don't want to kill her because I love her too much. So
Okay.
Whose life would I assume? Whose life would you assume?
Probably the one lady that was in the one show with Chris Pratt, and she acted like a cat person, and he acted like a dog person.
What are you talking about right now?
Was it The Office or something stupid like
Parks
that?
and Rec?
Parks and Rec.
Is that the other one?
I don't know. Maybe.
I didn't like either of these shows.
I didn't watch either of them, but I know that his character acts like...
Did he wear a suit all the time?
Yeah.
Okay,
but he acts like the epitome of a dog, and she acted like the epitome of a cat, just like reclusive and Audrey something, I think. Aubrey DePlaza or something.
Great.
Her. I want to be her only because I don't think she's a very good person, and I think I could do a better job.
Of being a person?
Yes, just being a person that isn't awful. I think I could do a better job at that. And I've got dark hair, and I'm a white person, and I think I can pull it off.
See, if I were you, I think the person you could pull off the best is Elise Myers.
Okay, so I'm not Hispanic.
Is she Hispanic?
Yeah. Half.
Oh.
The other half's German. That's why we look alike.
Okay. Can you sing?
Not well.
Then maybe you couldn't pull it off.
She blows me out of the water, that's for sure.
I found out the other day that she's younger than you.
Is she?
Yeah. Didn't know that.
Well, she's got 2 kids, and I don't, so...
I thought y'all were the same age, dude.
One of us is winning. It ain't me.
It might be. It might be you. You have a podcast with me.
Oh, okay, fair.
Oh, God. Who would I... I don't know if I could assume anybody's life. I'd probably pick some low-level military individual. Just because I feel like I could fake it really well.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I could fake being in the Navy so good.
But then when they look at you and say, okay, time for a PT test, what happens then?
I do what Mr. Ripley did and run. Run far, far away.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, that was...
A flawless plan.
A flawless 4 minutes into our podcast episode today. So, we're going to circle right back around to Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
Christina, what do you know about Quantum Leap? Literally anything?
I know Scott Bakula's in it.
Yes, my main man.
Okay, so hold on. Before I met you, I knew nothing. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Unfortunate.
And after I met you, I knew Scott Bakula was in it.
Yes.
And you told me that he leaps into different timelines to different people, but they have to be related to him or something. I don't know. There's something happening kind of like that.
Okay.
And the only thing that I just learned today was he looks like a very doofy man. In all of the still photographs that you're going to find when you search up Quantum Leap and the year that it was
1989.
1989. Doofy man. That's it. That's all I know.
Some might say Taylor Swift's the best thing to come out of 1989, but I think it was Quantum Leap.
The answer's neither. There is another thing that I know.
Yeah.
I know some of the names of the things. There's Ziggy.
Ziggy, yes.
There's Sam.
Yes.
There's another one that you wanted to name that one cat, but Oliver was better.
Okay.
And I can't remember what it was. I don't know. I know those two. That's it.
Great. So I'm going to give you the prep. So Quantum Leap
Yes.
from 1989 stars Scott Bakula as Dr. Sam Beckett and Dean Stockwell as Admiral Al Calavici.
This is the Sam and Dean you know.
Yes!
Not the rest of the world.
Yes! Okay.
Yikes. Wait, so that's Dean?
Dean Stockwell is his real life name. He plays Al Calavici. But that's why, like...
Okay.
I think I know people personally who would get like their real life name and their show name mixed up, and so I would just like any combination of Scott, Sam, Dean, and Al, it was all those two, and I knew what we were talking about.
Okay.
So
hit me with facts.
It's written by Donald P. Belisario, and I'm so thankful for this man. So the premise, Dr. Sam Beckett, played by Scott Bakula, is a scientist who devised a time travel experiment out of New Mexico that was meant to allow people from the future to observe the past. However, the U.S. government was threatening to pull funding from the experiment, and so Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap Accelerator and vanished. I'm going to give you I'm going to recite the opening for you.
Okay.
Because I feel like it does a better job of explaining than I can.
Okay.
Theorizing that one can time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett steps into the Quantum Leap Accelerator and vanishes. He awoke to find himself trapped in the past, facing mirror images that were not his own, and driven by an unknown force to change history for the better. His only guide on this journey is Al, an observer from his own time, who appears in the form of a hologram that only Sam can see and hear, and so Dr. Beckett finds himself leaping from life to life, striving to put right what once went wrong, and each time hoping that his next leap will be the leap home.
You didn't read any of that just now. You did that by memory. What the hell?
I knew you were gonna say that, and so
you were looking at me in the eyes. Of course, I was gonna say something. What was that?
The opener for like 2 of the 5 seasons.
You leapers.
3 of the 5 seasons.
You leapers are wild. That's it. That's all I got. Wow. Okay. So there's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it kind of make sense? The opener is basically to put in perspective for if you've never seen the show. That's all the information you need to know to understand what's going on in the episode. Okay,
so he can time travel, but only to people he's related to.
No, people within his own lifetime.
People within his own lifetime. Okay.
So let's say you were born in 1960 and you were currently living in 1990. You could only observe or travel into people between 1960 and 1990.
Okay.
It's the whole premise.
Gotcha, okay.
So, basically, to put it simply, his body is still in 1999. That is when the show takes place. It's supposed to be in the future. So, 10 years from when it was actually being aired. In the future. Yeah.
Before you were born.
Still before I was born, yes. But his consciousness or soul or whatever you want to call it is swapped out with somebody else in his lifetime.
Okay. And where is the consciousness of the person that he is leaping into?
In his body in 1999.
So he's just... When he leaps, somebody's just freaking out?
In his body, yes.
In his body?
In what they call the waiting room, And it is an all-white room, basically, that's got, like, a bed and no mirrors and, like, a table and chairs and stuff. And
they think this is okay?
Well, no. Dr. Verbena Beeks is the psychologist who works at Quantum Leap, who's there to help manage the person who he leaps into.
This is an ethical nightmare.
It really is.
Okay.
Mostly because the time travel experiment went wrong. That's the whole point. Like, it's a nightmare.
Okay. All right.
So in order to leap, Sam must put right what once went wrong in the lifetime of the person he's leapt into. Mm-hmm. And Admiral Al Calavici is not only Sam's best friend, but he's the project observer. So he's the hologram that helps Sam when he's leaping. And he also manages the relationship between the project and the government. So we see a couple scenes where he's all dressed up in his admiralty get-up and is, like, begging the government not to shut down the project.
Okay.
Because Sam would be lost to time.
Okay.
So basically, the show spans 97 episodes across 5 seasons.
I'm trying to math right now. Math is hard.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's a lot.
That's
It's
average for the time.
Yeah.
You know, just under 20 episodes or so.
So each episode's kind of complete. So when Sam leaps, he has amnesia.
Of course he does, because you need another element of
Yep. And so they call it his Swiss cheese memory, so it leaves gaps in his memory. So like the first time he ever leaps, he can't remember his name, he can't remember Al's name, he can't remember that he leaped, like he just knows like he's not in his own body. Which is great.
And it happens every time.
As it goes on, he starts retaining the fact that he knows who he is, why that he's leaping, and he knows who Al is, and that sort of thing. And as they go on, they kind of declassify stuff that he's allowed to know, so on and so forth. So, there's also, every episode, there's a unique cast of characters. So, like, the main ones stay the same. So, like, Sam and Al are always in it.
Okay.
Sometimes, like, Dr. Verbena Beeks, when she's in it, she's always played by the same woman. Gushy's always played by the same guy.
Gushy, I've heard that name before.
Ziggy's voice actor's always the same. And, like, Tina is always the same. Beth is always the same. So on and so forth. But, like, all the people he leaps into and stuff, they're always different. So we get a whole new cast of characters each episode.
Okay.
Which makes it really, really visually interesting. And the time periods change, so all the costumes and makeup and everything changes. It's really, really interesting. And in each episode, Sam always says his catchphrase, "Oh boy."
That's a fucking catchphrase?
Oh boy is his catchphrase. So
Ma'am.
He leaps in. We see like a minute or two worth of his new life. He says, "Oh boy," and it cuts to the opening title scene. There's actually 2 opening title scenes. There's an opening title scene to open the episode. Then we get like a minute or 2 of like his new life. He says, "Oh boy." Then we get the music portion. And then we get the rest of the episode.
1989 was a different beast. My God. Oh boy is a catchphrase.
It really is. Hence why I want "oh boy" as a tattoo. But that's a whole other thing. We've never talked about that.
No,
anyway,
not once.
So the show is unique for its time in so many ways. But I'd say the thing that makes it so powerful is how it touches so many social justice issues. It's actually a big social commentary. Okay. So over the course of the show, Sam leaps into all sorts of people, men, women, sometimes pregnant women.
Oh.
He leaps into people of all colors and creeds. Famous people like Dr. Ruth, the sex therapist who had a talk show and all that good stuff. He leaps into Lee Harvey Oswald, the man who's supposedly assassinated JFK.
Right.
He leaps into interracial relationships in a time when the Jim Crow era, like all these things. Doctors, lawyers. In the very first episode, he leaps into a test pilot who's supposed to break Mach 2.
Great.
And I believe Sam has, it's either 4 or 6 doctorates.
Okay.
And one, like, ancient languages, medicine, all this stuff, right? And because he has amnesia and his memory Swiss cheese, he can't always rely on that stuff. So Al has to be like, "Dude, you have a doctorate. Just think about it for a second. What would you do?" and the stuff he doesn't know, like, Al was a pilot. Okay. In the Vietnam War. So when he has to be a test pilot, Al walks him through how to be a pilot. It's really, really cool.
So when he leaps into people, he doesn't get to, like, know their expertise. He doesn't, like...
No.
Oh.
So there's there's Quantum Leap, and then there's the reboot, and there's some discrepancies between the two.
Okay.
But in the original, if Sam leaps, let's say he leaps into you, right? He
Gross. Okay.
Or we can say let's say he leaps into your husband.
Still gross, but okay.
Sam has all of the power and all of the knowledge and, like, all of, like, the fighting skill and all of the, like, because he boxed and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. He still possesses all that skill and knowledge and the strength and everything. So Scott Bakula is, like, 6'2", whatever. Mm. So he can take all the knowledge and, like, how to use his body as a 6'2" man and do the same thing as, like, a 5-foot-tall woman. So, like,
that's weird.
If he knows kung fu, she knows kung fu. Or if he can box, she can box.
That's weird that because he is so tall that he can just flip his brain and be like, yep, guess I know how that works when I'm in a 4-foot body.
Exactly.
Like, that's not how that works.
It shouldn't. There's even an episode in the 5th season where he leaps into a man who was paralyzed during the war. Mm. And that man has no use of his legs. Mm. Sam can still walk. So Sam would technically have use of his legs. So in this episode, he spends the whole episode in a wheelchair, except at the very end where the only way he can save the person who he has to save from dying is if he stands up to, like, attack somebody else. And so he stands up. And
my God.
It's really, it's really dumb.
But
I don't in the new one, like, because a lot of people didn't like that, in the new one, when Dr. Ben Song leaps, he only has the ability to do what his host body can do. So if his host body takes 20 minutes to run a mile, he takes 20 minutes to run a mile. Okay. And he's confined by the meat sack, essentially.
I hate the way you said that, but okay.
So, like, it makes more sense.
I'm down for something like that.
Yeah. So. And it's fun, because we'll go back to the reboot in a minute.
Okay.
But Sam also has leapt into people with disabilities. He leaps into his younger self. He's leapt into Al as a younger man. And he's even leapt into a chimpanzee that one time.
That sounds like we don't talk about the chimpanzee that one time.
I really don't like the chimpanzee episode. Because he, like, kind of falls in love with the woman who's his caretaker. But at the same time, he's a chimp. And, like, he has to, like, save a man's life as a chimp. It's really, really stupid.
None of these episodes are sounding not stupid.
Like, in one of them, he has to leap into a woman who just survived being sexually assaulted and has no memory of it. But he also has no memory of it, so he has to prove that this woman was assaulted.
Okay.
And, they're putting all these puzzle pieces together, so that's really interesting.
Okay.
Anyway. Leaping has rules. Because of course it does.
Of course.
In the beginning, Al can only give so much information about the present that Al is living in. So in 1999, excuse me, he can only give Sam so much information about that.
Makes sense.
So, like, he cannot tell Sam that he's married. Like, Sam is married to a woman named Donna.
No.
But Sam can't know. Because he has to have romantic relationships and things like that as he's leaping. And both Sam and Donna and Al, before, like, when they were making the rules for the project, or I guess Sam didn't agree, but when Al and Donna discussed it, they said it's better for Sam to be able to complete his mission and not have his mind reliant on Donna's back home and I can't, like, cheat on her or whatever. So we don't know Donna exists for a minute because Sam doesn't know. Mm. But we eventually find out Donna exists and she's awesome because there's an episode where after Sam has leapt into a man in the psych ward, as he's receiving electroshock therapy, a lightning strike happens, and he leaps all at the same time, and so he and Al switch places. And so Sam is home, and Al has leapt.
Interesting.
And so then we get to meet Donna. Anyway, the information can be a problem because Sam has the amnesia, like we've discussed, and so he can't always fall back on his knowledge, but that's where Al and Ziggy come in. Ziggy is the project computer. the AI, essentially, that Sam created to run the project. Basically, Ziggy is the most powerful computer that there's ever been. And the computer AI situation has an attitude and a personality. She's a very cunty woman. There's a joke that, like, is in the books and in the show that Dr. Sam Beckett used his, like, feminine side to design Ziggy.
Oh.
And used his, like, he wanted somebody who was just, like, as punchy and powerful as Al is.
Okay.
But we needed a woman to balance it out, right? Because it's 1989.
Of course.
And so there are some continuity errors with this. Most often it's Ziggy is used, like, she is referred to with the wrong pronouns, and the voice is described incorrectly in the books, and, like, the books are the companion pieces to the TV show.
Okay.
But the books have 3 different authors for all the books that are out and all that stuff. So there's inconsistencies. But it's not technically a large issue because it's just a different pronoun and a description for a computer.
Right.
But it takes away from some of the lore and the background the original TV series sets up.
Okay.
Another rule of leaping is that Sam can't do anything to change the lives of anyone involved in the project on purpose. So it, like, when he leaps into Al as a young ensign in the Navy, he has to fuck with Al's life because he has no other choice. But if he leaps into some Joe Schmo out in California, he can't, like, call his girlfriend or call his whoever at the time, you know?
Okay.
But he breaks that, like, it starts as a really hard and fast rule, but Sam doesn't always listen, and he breaks it within the first few episodes. He leaps into a baseball player, and thank you. You knew what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
He leaps into a baseball player and ends up calling his father.
Oh.
And, like, lies about who he is, you know, because he can't call his dad and be like, yeah, I'm from the future, Dad. But he calls his dad because his dad died young, and he wants to speak to his dad, right? Because it's the first time he, like, remembers his family and remembers that he's had people die as he's been leaping and that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
Though the call to his father doesn't actually change much, it definitely plants the seed in his subconscious that, like, his family exists and he might be able to do something about their lives.
Yeah.
You know? So my favorite episode is titled MIA. It's the last episode, I believe, of season 2. And we see Al struggle with coming to face with his first wife. Al in the show is a well-known womanizer. He's had, I think, 5 or 6 wives that we hear about over the course of the show, and he talks about, oh, I'm getting divorced, or you remember my third wife, you whatever, right?
Okay.
So, like, Al being a womanizer is, like, a really big
thing.
plot line.
Okay.
But we come face to face with his first wife, Beth, the only woman he ever truly loved. At this time, Al was a POW in Vietnam, and Beth was losing hope of him returning. At the time Sam leaps into, Al has convinced him that there's a way to save Beth's marriage, and it isn't until later in the episode we find out that Beth and Al were an item and they were married. We just think, oh, there's this woman, you know, because Al twists this tale that, oh, like, this happened to me and I'd hate for somebody else to have to go through this.
Right.
You know, and he winds this whole tale, but in reality, Sam is actually there to rescue a baby.
Oh. Okay.
From a gunfight in a bar.
Of course.
Yeah. This baby gets caught in the crossfire, essentially.
Okay.
So the audience gets to see how difficult it is for Sam and Al not to get tangled up in things that they could change instead of the things that they should or need to change. We also get arguably what is the most heartbreaking scene of the whole show, where Al as a hologram is dancing with Beth to their wedding song as they both cry, and Al begs Beth to wait for him just 3 more years until he's repatriated. And it's Beth in her 20s, and she's young, and she's crying, and she's dancing by herself to their wedding record in her living room, just missing her husband, right?
Yeah.
And we see Al, like, Sam is waiting outside her house, you know, because they can't leap yet until everything is done, right?
Okay.
And so Al gets his little bit of closure and just begging Beth, please, it'll only be 3 more years till I'm repatriated. Just wait for me.
Yeah.
Because he's repatriated in 73. You know, she doesn't wait.
Okay. I assumed.
Then, there's more trouble when Sam ends up leaping into his younger self, and he does everything he can to keep his family out of trouble. He tries to keep his sister from marrying an abusive man. He tries to keep his father from dying of a heart attack, and he tries to keep his brother from going to fight in Vietnam, where he will die.
That's a lot of drama in one family.
Yes.
Then again, it was the 80s.
Yeah.
And 90s.
None of these things end up working out, and we also get the joy of Al telling Sam that if Sam won't fix Al's life, he sure as hell can't fix his own.
Okay.
Which is really, because by the time we see this, like, we already had the heartbreak of Al and Beth.
Yeah.
And so it's when Sam turns around and goes, no, I'm just going to stay here and live out my life and get a second chance to relive my own life.
Yeah.
Because he leaps into himself at 17 years old. And I was like, no, the fuck you aren't, dude. He's like, remember, it's the greater good and all that good stuff. So, however, after his leap into his younger self, Sam leaps into a man. So after we find out he can't fix his own life, there's a continuation episode of the one where he leaps home. It's called The Leap Home and The Leap Home Part 2. We get the continuation episode where Sam leaps into a man named Magic, who is in the same unit as his brother is in Vietnam. And Magic ends up becoming the head of the project in the reboot, which is a delicious, delicious way to tie it all in.
Okay.
So speaking of the reboot, it's set 30 years after the original, and Dr. Ben Sung and his fiancée Addison Augustine work with Magic on the project. And though I've only seen up through the first season at the time that we're recording the podcast, it is unclear what the motive to Ben leaping is. The thought is maybe he's trying to save Addison from a premature death. Or he is leaping in order to find Dr. Sam Beckett, who was lost to time in the original series. Sam being lost to time was truly heartbreaking, and it was not a fan favorite ending.
No?
The ending actually left a lot of fans very upset, and I will say it could have absolutely ruined the show for me if they didn't do one very, very specific thing.
Hit me with that one very, very specific thing.
At the end of the last episode, in the last episode, we see Sam at a bar that's kind of out of time, and he's talking to a bartender who is presumed to be God.
Okay.
And we see Sam leap in, because throughout the show, they have the discussion of who's leaping me around. Is it God? Is it the universe? Is it a higher power? Is Sam leaping himself around? Like, why can't he go home?
Okay.
And so, in the last episode, it's presumed that he's talking to God, and we get to see Sam leap into Beth's living room at the very end. Right back to the final scene in MIA where she was just dancing with Al, crying. And the audience gets to see Sam as himself tell Beth that she has to keep holding on for just a few more years and Al will be home. Then we see Sam leap for one final time. And she is standing there awestruck and crying because a man appears, talks to her, and disappears. And she has no understanding of why or how. At the end of the show, we get a couple black screens, and the audience gets to find out that Beth waited for Al, and they have 4 girls together.
Aww.
The womanizer who's never, can settle down again, because he's always loved Beth. And they go on and have 4 girls together. And then we meet the final shot of text saying, Dr. Beckett never returned home. But the fucking kicker is, they didn't even spell Dr. Beckett right. They spelt it wrong on the final clip. The final cut.
That's your character.
Yeah.
And you're gonna spell it wrong?
Yeah.
That's dumb. That's majorly dumb.
Yep. The final episode was written before they knew if the show was getting picked up for another season.
So they were like, why use spell check?
Yeah, I guess. So it was kind of either they can do more or they're gonna put in these black screens at the end and tell you Sam Beckett never returned home.
Right.
It wasn't the best ending, but it's an ending that allowed the show for a reboot. And here's some very fucking exciting things to me about the reboot.
Okay.
There are more characters from Dr. Ben Song's present time, which is really great, including but not limited to Al's youngest daughter, who is very cool. And we have lots of other really cool women. So in the very first, iteration of the show, it's very man-heavy.
You don't say.
He leaps into a lot of white men.
Oh.
It's very man-heavy.
Okay.
But in the second one, we get a lot more women on screen, and it is wonderful.
Great.
This is the first real, in the series, we get our first real non-binary character named Ian Wright, who's played by a non-binary actor named Mason Alexander Park. Okay. And they are wonderful. This is them right there. Okay. They are essentially the programmer trying to rebuild Ziggy. And we haven't, as far up through season 1, we have not heard Ziggy's voice ever. Like we used to in the original. So it's going to be kind of exciting to see if Ziggy gets to come back online with a voice. Okay. We get to see more leaps in the 90s and early 2000s because Ben's timeline of his life is different, so we get new aspects. Right. The interesting thing, though, is Ben wasn't the one who was originally supposed to leap. Addison was. So this is Ben here, and that's Addison. Sorry, I have a picture pulled up. Oh, good. This Ben and Addison, that's Magic. Okay. That's their head of security, and her name is escaping me right now. Anyway, basically, Addison is military, and she's this big badass woman, right, who has all these skills and all this knowledge, right? And Ben's just a nerdy man that's supposed to be doing what Al did, you know, and helping her through, and she's supposed to be like the muscle, right? Right. But whatever it is, the algorithm ended up making Ben leap. We haven't figured out why Ben leaped yet. But we get to see,
gotta be a man.
But we get to see their struggles where with them switching places. Like Ben is a pacifist, like does not believe in fighting, none of this stuff, right? And he's out here having to fist fight people and fire guns and like be a big badass firefighter. Like there's a clip that I saw for the upcoming series where he's like a firefighter and all this stuff. It's very exciting. Okay. And in one of the previews, Ben gets to punch a Nazi.
Awesome.
And he was like, damn, that felt good, or something like that. And like in the first couple episodes, we get to see Addison teach Ben how to throw a punch. Because he doesn't know. It's just so good. Okay. We get more transgender characters. Like he leaps into a dad of a transgender girl who like just wants to play basketball. We get so many like more social commentary pieces, and it's so exciting and
cool.
Oh, it's so good. I'm currently reading The Wall right now, the Quantum Leap book, The Wall. Okay. And The Wall does a very interesting thing that the original show does, where we get continuations, where Sam leaps into the same characters over and over again. So there's a 3-part episode in the series where he leaps into the little girl, I believe, and then he leaps into her fiance. No, he leaps into her father, then her fiance, then somebody else she's related to, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But all within the orbit of this one girl who's going through a lot of trouble in her life. Okay. And in The Wall, it's the same thing. So at first he leaps into a 6-year-old girl who's living in Germany with her family, whose father is in the Air Force. Okay. And they're just about to put up the Berlin Wall, and it's a whole thing, right? And so I'm still in the beginning of the book where he's the 6-year-old girl. And then in the second part of the book, he's supposed to leap into somebody else, like her again, older, I think. Okay. Is what the preview on the back of the book said. But it's her again, instead of being 6, she's like 26. Okay. And so it's not unusual for him to leap into the same people. He leaps into a special needs kid named Jimmy, who has Down syndrome multiple times. It's really, really, really interesting. And there's so many good pieces to this show. Do you have questions? Please hit me with some questions. I'd love to answer some questions for you.
I think my main question is, like, how much airtime is Scott Bakula actually getting? Because you have so many different characters, like...
Oh, okay, this is important.
I don't understand how that works at
Okay, I'm gonna do my best to explain this to you, also adding a visual. So, This is Sam. Sam is a Mountain Dew can.
Wonderful.
And this is what Sam looks like. Sam looks like Scott Bakula right there, right?
Does Sam have actual Mountain Dew in him?
I'm sure he had it somewhere.
No, I'm asking if the can has Mountain Dew in it.
And then this
just in case it falls.
Is the person he leaps into, right? My water bottle.
Great.
And so while Sam's body is back in the waiting room, and the person he leaped into is in 1990. When we see him on the TV show, we see his reflection look like this, and him look like this. So when he's acting, it's all Sam. We see Sam.
Oh.
But we get a mirror shot every episode. And the interesting thing is they actually built 2 sets, one on each side of the mirror. Mm-hmm. It's not actually a mirror. You're seeing into a whole other set. And they walk on together, look in the mirror, do the exact same motions, like that mirror game you used to play in theater class.
Oh, jeez.
And then you see him walk off. It's awesome. I will show you a clip.
Okay.
But they literally built the same set, reflection, essentially.
Okay.
And so you see a mirror scene where they walk on together, and you see, oh, he's supposed to be this beautiful blonde bombshell of a lady, but it's actually Scott Bakula in a dress.
Okay.
And it's beautiful.
Interesting. Okay.
So he gets 99% of the airtime.
Sounds about right. Okay.
Also,
yeah,
I need you to know that Al Calavici is my main, fashion inspiration.
Oh, no. This guy with the jumbo tie?
Yeah. Everything that man wears, I'm obsessed with.
Yikes.
And it's all really, really bad. But it's supposed to be what's, in futuristic fashion. And it's all terrible, and I'm in love with it. And I need you to know that. Okay. I have a couple pieces specifically in my wardrobe because they scream Al Calavici, and I need you to know.
Okay, well, I now know.
Great.
I assume after we're done with this, you're going to go and take me into your closet.
Oh, probably.
And say, that one, and that one, and that one, and oh my god, I'm wearing this tomorrow.
Possibly. Do you have any other questions for me?
I think I got the main stuff. I think I get it. I would never, ever, ever watch the old one. Ever. God. This new one, I might.
It's really good.
Yeah?
It's genuinely good.
Okay.
And I like that Ben Song is not a white man.
Yeah.
Who is he? Raymond Lee is his name in real life. Raymond Lee is a phenomenal actor.
Okay.
And I just love that we don't spend all of the show staring at a white man. It's a person of color and a lady.
Wonderful.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Magnificent. Okay, here's my question.
Okay.
Would you rather... So I should preface the question with, when I was growing up, if I was going through something really hard and I just really desperately wanted a break, I would go, God, this would be a great time for Sam to leap into me right now so I don't have to deal with it.
Oh.
Was one of my terrible coping mechanisms as a kid.
Okay.
I'd just be like, God, I wish I didn't have to deal with this. Sam, take the wheel. I'm over it. I'm done.
Okay.
Never happened, by the way.
Big
big
zero
wow.
surprise.
But would you rather Sam or Ben leap into you to take care of a problem, or would you rather one of them leap into somebody that you know and just have to deal with somebody being fucking different for the next week?
Oh.
Would you rather have Sam leap into you or leap into me or your husband or somebody you have really close contact with all the time?
Okay. That's an interesting question.
So either for a week your husband acts really fucking strange because
that's what I want.
You catch him talking to himself and just kind of acting a little bit different, and he might talk different and that kind of thing. Or would you rather wake up in a waiting room in the future in a body that's not your own and have to deal with what the fuck is going on, Dr. Beeks situation, and then you leap back into your body and you only remember very minute details about it and you just are missing a week of your life?
Both of these options are terrible.
And with that, happy leap day!
Happy leap day.
Okay, talk to you soon. Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.